having this be kind of an open discussion. Anything you want to know about what we're doing, what we're working on. I wanted to let you all know that we have a board meeting on Tuesday night. We have a very full agenda of things we're going to be voting on. And if you wanted to ask about that, about supporting the work of the congregation, it's just a discussion. So, and if you'll wait until we can pass the microphone, I'll introduce myself. I'm Arlene Kohlrich. I'm the president of your board. You'll introduce yourself?
Eric Ness, and I with the Legacy Planning Committee.
Thank you.
Lee Doyle, board member.
Susan Moon, I'm the vice president.
Jeff Goltz, board member and treasurer.
The rebel.
The rebels. No. Hello out there in the universe. I'm Carmel Shields, and I am your stewardship chair this year, and all about whatever we're doing with money here in the congregation.
I'm Joe Joy, I'm board member.
B-O-A-R-D. Just everyone, B-O-A-R-D. Yeah.
B-O-R-D. No, it's not.
All right, so I just wanted to do some listening today. We talked about some big ideas and our heritage this morning in the sermon, and Reverend Monica's here and Reverend Mary. So if you were going to describe what this congregation is, would it be a refuge? Would it be a team? Would it be a hospital? Would it be what it feels like to me, a herd of cats? What would you describe us as?
Rich Coleman.
Oh, wonderful, Rich. Hello, Rich. Yeah, we get to say hi right to the camera. Yeah. Sure. Rich, do you want to introduce yourself? Suppose I'll start. I consider this a refuge and a hospital and a team, because when I want to react to something that I see out in the world, and I know I'm not the only other person who feels that way, I'm 100% sure I will find someone in this congregation who wants to do something and not just talk about it. So, anyone else? Yes. Thank you, Beth.
Sure. So do I have to stand?
No, just say it. They can see you.
Oh, hi there. I consider it all of the above and more, because as I change in my personal relationships and in my dynamic, as I move through my life, then, as you said, what I need at a particular time, I know that I will find in this congregation, because we are in relationship and our dynamics change as our needs change. And I think that's what's happening now as we have moved from one type of a congregation to another type of a congregation, and how do we make that switch? How do we talk about it, and how do we want to be with one another? And as things change, that has to change too. So I never thought I would ever be involved with any kind of a spiritual group again in my life after a horrible experience, but here I am, thank you, Lee. And as I recognized, I thank you, but I also know that my soul wanted to be here. So that's how I see it. I love it.
For me, I think, it's, everything is here, even, the unknown. By the time you get to that unknown, by the time you know it, it was already here. I just went through, I not want to put it a terrible experience as we were trying to get back home to Cameroon with my husband. All the preparations and whatever that we had done. And as we are trying to open a UU, because UU, my experience, even here in America, is not even acceptable, with other, religious bodies that you find here in the US. And obviously, it will not be the same back in Africa. So it's a big challenge, but I'm ready for the task. I'm so happy because, all this, so when did we want it to leave? That was the 25th. From the 25th, between the 25th of September and yesterday, I did not really understand what was going on. I was stressed, traumatized, confused, until I got a call yesterday from, my first child, my eldest son, his fiancée. So he was explaining to me what transpired, and what gave me relief was when she said, upon all the police, the gendarmes, the military, the prisoners, everybody who was there after the police, they dismantled or vandalized the, the canopies that had been set up, the chairs, the tables, and the prisoners loaded everything, and everything was taken away. But then everybody sat, some on the floor, and they all ate and drank, including the prisoners. That was what gave me joy. So, and that is what I found here. And that's why I am here. And that's why I am taking UU to Cameroon. But maybe with a slightly, how would I say, furnished concept that is to suit, the Cameroonian, community. So I think, and I am confident that you will help me on this journey. I'm grateful.
We have a couple online, but I'll leave. Alex online shares, as a person who had to give up their entire family and previous congregation of 20 plus years in order to be my true my true and whole life, family is what comes to mind. We don't all come from good or healthy families or religious backgrounds. It's community action where we can feel like we're doing things together within the community safely, which brings to mind team and spiritual growth and accountability, a place to get acquainted with yourself and taking that out into the world. And then we have one more from Hawthorne Campbell. I think of a church, and of this church in particular, as a gathering place, like a town square or a pier. It's a place where we can exchange and share things, our resources like time and money, our knowledge, our hopes and fears, our wants and needs, and our ability to meet those wants and needs.
Thank you, Carbon.
Arlene, can I add one that didn't make it into the screen? Please, yes.
This is Reverend Monica. If this sermon had been longer, this metaphor would also have been there. Maybe you know that when a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, it builds a chrysalis and it liquefies into caterpillar goop inside the chrysalis. I didn't know this until a couple years ago. It blows my mind. And there are in the caterpillar what are called imaginal cells, which are the cells that begin guiding the goop to turn into a butterfly, and then the butterfly is able to come out. There are times in my life when I have felt like I was caterpillaring along and I started turning into goop. And thank goodness I had UUs in my life as I figured out what I was going to be next and how to come out of the chrysalis as a butterfly. So sometimes we're a kind of community chrysalis too.
There was a comment in the room that the choir sang a song about that, and then Ian said, yeah, it was called Goop Be Gone. I just wanted the rest of you online to get the full experience of being in the room with these marvelous, brilliant people. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, this is Lee Doyle, and I've been on the board for about a year. I came to UU about 5 years ago after spending about 3 years in relative isolation. Prior to that, I spent about 15 years working in an awful lot of political arenas around Thurston County. I've worked with almost every sitting council person, and they do a good job, but when my party kind of tanked, I walked away from politics, and I was alone for about 3 years without community, and then I encouraged Beth to come with me to visit UU. I came here for community, and I found that I've got spirit. Then I began recognizing that there was some discord in the community, there was great harmony in the community, and there's a lot of diversity in the community. And being on the board, I have had the pleasure of working with really smart, dedicated people who are working to build a whole society, a whole community here. And I so respect the work that's happening and this opportunity to share thoughts back and forth about how do we govern ourselves. Reverend Mary's leadership and how do we covenant with one another is such an exciting conversation for me. And having that opportunity to share time with you as your equals is precious to me.
Linda Seltzer online shares, it strikes me that we can experience grace in our vulnerabilities together to take care for one another.
This is Reverend Mary. I think one of the blessings and joys of a congregation of this size is that we're big enough that folks can find their way no matter what they come with. A family-sized congregation is small, and has a feel often of, we're all alike here. A really huge place might be something for everybody. This size, I think, is particularly nice. Although it has its challenges, it's particularly nice because it's big enough to have variety and small enough so that you can get to know each other. And so you might come on a Sunday looking for a team or for refuge or because you're feeling like goop or whatever, and there will be someone else here who is in the same place you are, or there will be people who recognize where you are and say, I've been there too, how can I be here for you? That's the blessing.
I'd like to change the subject a little bit. You led off by saying that the board is facing several issues, and I'd like you to share those with us, please.
Well, one thing we are working on, we had some key deliverables that we laid out at the beginning of the year. And one thing that we are going to be reviewing at this board meeting is the behavioral covenant. And some of the other things we're working on are updating our vision of governance and the governance policy, because when it was put together at the transition, whole sections were lifted out of a general guide, and they weren't personalized or customized for a congregation of our size and with our history. So that is happening. Jeff and Susan are working on that with Fritz Reedy to make that a living document for us. That's the thing, all the policies and everything we do here at OUUC, we have to keep our eye on the fact that this works for us now, and we don't want to set anything in stone that is going to tie the hands of future board members or future congregants about because our needs are going to change as we grow. So the policy works now, and then if it doesn't work, we can always vote to change it later. But for right now, some of the things we're working on include also listening to our community about the death that happened in our lower parking lot. Currently, we have a no camping policy on the OUC grounds. And we've reviewed that internally, and we believe that allowing camping in this climate at this time is not a financial or insurance risk or a time and commitment risk that we are willing to make right now. So we are not allowing any camping. And also because there has been increased drug activity in the area, and many times the Olympia police have asked to see the camera footage from our camera in front of the building. They've observed several drug exchanges in our parking lot. Because think about it, we're at the end of a dark road with a whole bunch of trees around, not very many houses around. Where would you want to do your drug deal? In Olympia. Come in, zip out. So they're looking at our camera there, and we're also going to be putting a camera on the back of the church to catch any traffic that comes up, either foot, animal, whatever. Because if someone is trying to sneak on the property and sleep, say, behind the building, we don't have any way to observe that now. And we will have a record of it if there's a camera back there. So it just keeps us safe, keeps our neighborhood safe, because we are a member of this neighborhood. What a couple of the other things we're working on. Oh, we're having a board retreat, another mini retreat on November the 18th to work with Reverend Monica and Reverend Mary to do a kind of a restart. Because when Reverend Mary started 4 years ago, we just barely had come out of transitional ministry, and she never got a true welcome and orientation to how the congregation works and the history of the place and how we're going to all work together. So what's the board business? What's committee business? What's congregational business? Whose job is what? Who do you have to get permission from to ask someone to do something? Things like that. So all of those things that cause conflict in the long run unless you have an understanding at the beginning. You're welcome.
Questions? Come on.
Yep, part of listening is
We have 2 cameras in front, and they're above each of the doors, the front door and the RE door. And there have been several things that have happened in the neighborhood, and the police have called and said, can we look at your footage? And so, of course, we share that. So, and I'll just say, in general, this is a safe place, and it's like anywhere else, right? We have our particular challenges. So security is one of those things that comes up regularly. If you were here last Sunday, you may have heard that our front sign on Division, the lighted sign, was tagged. Our peace pole's been tagged. Our front sign has been tagged. And those feel like violations when that happens, right? And so Marie does a great job of figuring out how to clean things up, but we just have to tend to our space and to each other and to our neighbors because they're concerned as well.
Online, Rich Coleman has shared, I am disheartened to see the many examples of how inhumanely people treat each other in our country and in our world. What attracts me to OUUC is that as a covenantal community, we can decide together how we wish to treat each other and how we may be treated in return. Our covenant embodies those decisions.
Thank you. I wondered what the board looks at as being the greatest challenges for growing the size of the congregation. Well, that's the question I've got, I guess. Thank you.
Give that one to Jeff.
Awesome.
Well, personally, I think the greatest challenge that the congregation and the board faces is that of fundraising and ensuring for the future a solid financial foundation. Now, we've got, in the past couple of years, some really great financial news. We're out of debt, 0 debt. I bet there's not 5% of the congregations nationally that are out of debt. We had a very successful capital campaign combined with some amazing generosity by several members in their wills, George Lanning gift and a bequest. We have a new HVAC system. We've done some other improvements with the pavement, with the gutters, with a walkway, and there's more that's going to happen. So that's really great financial news that's going to make this place attractive to more members of the community. So that's one thing. We have great challenges because we've had, because of COVID and other things, increased expenses. You know, it used to be Riley McLaughlin was in the closet, you know, and now we've got like the Johnson Space Center over here, you know. and so we've had a lot of extra expenses necessarily to attract members who can't come physically or don't feel safe coming physically because of COVID, or people who just live out of state, you know, that are ways away, and they can become members of our church now. So that's been a real positive. But with those extra expenses, although we've got some amazing fundraising efforts, I mean, Susan Dodson's raising $10,000 a year on her own with e-sales. We've had very successful auctions, but our pledge drives have been relatively flat. So we've increased expenses, relatively flat pledge drive, so we've got some challenges, and we've had to actually use some reserves to make up for the difference between budget expenditures and revenues. So I personally think, to get back to your question, that looking forward, I think we really need to put the church on a sound financial foundation going forward. We've taken great steps in that regard. We have a long ways to go. And that makes the building attractive to people. It gives us an opportunity for programming that makes it possible to have more outreach. That gives us a lot of options going forward into the future to attract more people. Of course, there's always a debate. Do we want to grow? Do we not want to grow? You know, we've had that debate in this congregation for decades. And I fall in the growth camp, but not everybody does. So.
So Ian, this is Reverend Mary again. You anticipated my sermon for next week, which will be, the service title is Yours, Mine, and Ours, about shared ministry. And I'm going to talk some about growth and what changes when we grow and what stays the same when we grow. And one of the challenges that OUC faced and is continuing to face is a shift from a pastoral-sized church to a program-sized church. You all have heard, if you've been around a while, you've heard that a lot. It's a hard transition, and it's a transition this congregation has been in for 20 years. And it's not only about the numbers of people, it's about the cultural shift and the organizational shift that's required. And it's hard because it's a shift in mindset. So it's a shift from things like I need to be involved in everything, or I should know everything that's going on and I should know everybody, to that's not possible. And so the challenge then is how do we stay as one community? How do we stay as a whole community when you can't know everybody and you can't attend everything? And that's a real shift from we're one to, you know, we're whole and together. So more on that. And you know, I think that's a big challenge, and one that is challenging for any congregation. Some congregations never make that shift because it's hard.
Sorry, pastoral, from pastoral to what?
To program. From pastoral to program. Yep.
We have a couple of questions and a comment. Alex online asks, do we have an action plan for the drug dealing, and how are we addressing it within the neighborhood?
Well, the police have an action plan for the drug dealing. They are handling it as well as they can, and what we can do is to make our location as unappetizing as possible. And to have a camera there and have everything you do reported has got to make it much more unappetizing than, say, another place. So I do not think that we are going to be locking and putting gates up and hiring security guards. That's not who we are and what we want to do here. Drugs are a part of our society now. And drugs are very much interwoven into the houseless crisis in Olympia as well. So the two problems kind of go hand in hand, and it's not the same problem that it was so many years ago when we hosted Camp Quixote with Reverend Arthur Vaney. And I remember taking a shift down in the swamp on the pallets and signing people in. I remember spending the night with my kids for the emergency shelter here in the church. You know, I remember going to events to raise money for Quixote Village. I remember singing at the dedication of Quixote Village when the choir went and sang. I remember marching, all those things for homelessness. And those are wonderful things to do. And but what's happened is over time, our focus as a church, what we feel we are passionate about, what we want to do, it has changed over the years. The core number of people who are very concerned and want to do something about houselessness are also now are committed to environmental action, and they're committed to anti-racism. They're committed to equality and reproductive justice. So, you know, it's just not the same as it was. Yes.
In addition to what Arlene mentioned, I just want to applaud the board for responding to our neighbors. And the board hosted a neighborhood meeting here at the church and has committed to regular meetings with our neighbors because it's building those relationships that are really important. And when our sign down on Division was tagged, I found out about it because one of our neighbors contacted me, one of the neighbors who had been at the meeting, and said, I just want you to know that this happened, because it was a Friday morning, nobody was here. And so as Reverend Monica preached this morning, we're a relational faith. That's the foundation of our theology and who we are. And so it's going to be building relationships, not only with our neighbors, not only with the police, maybe at some point with the folks who come through our parking lot. The police are making regular drive-throughs now because they know we're one of those spots, just like they do at Bury Park down the street. But it's the relationships. That's really the foundation of who we are that we can build on. So yay to the board for that.
Thank you. So I have a couple things. First, the neighborhood meeting, what came out was we're all going to work together in the neighborhood. It's an area-wide issue. It's not just this end of the street. It goes all the way along Elliott and out, and we all agreed, and it was quite a very calm a calm meeting from what we were expecting from. But the neighborhood was very much encouraged, and the other thing is that we do still have groups doing the types of things about homelessness. We have people building tiny homes and supporting that end. We also have people delivering food to on Wednesdays and working in kitchens. And so it's not present on site, but we still and it's part of, maybe we've gotten big enough that maybe you don't know about those things. And so those are the sorts of challenges we have too when we've become this large is okay, if you are interested in this, how do you find out? How do you find out who's doing what, and how can you be involved, and what skills can you provide? And that's always been an issue with trying to get a volunteer coordinator or whatever going to tie people in and get them involved and help them feel that they're part of the community.
I was just wondering if the board had thought of maybe building an enclosure or a fence, to minimize maybe trespass or, I don't know, whatever security, challenges that you may have, which is more economical, manageable. Is it the cameras or, maybe the board can take a look on that?
Thank you. Well, Vijarsan answered to that because I think Joe explained it beautifully, that the problem is not just this one little tiny piece of property. It's all the way through this neighbor, all the way out to Elliott, all the way out. So this whole wooded corridor is the site of some beautiful neighborhoods and some wonderful people walking their dogs and folks doing drugs. I think what we can do is, like Reverend Mary said, we have not yet reached out to the folks who are trespassing and doing things that we don't want them to do on our property. And I don't know how we would do that. But again, if someone has an idea and wants to commit some time and resources, bring it to us. Yeah, we'll listen.
And Diana Finch attended a community meeting a couple years ago in the summertime. Reverend Mary was there. We met with neighbors in this area after some incidents. I don't recall what it was, but there was concern about things happening in the community. And so Reverend Mary and board members met with the neighborhood, and the police, the Olympia police, were there, and they were very, very grand. I wanted to kind of call your attention to the fact that we have really well-trained police in our Thurston County region. And they were there as friends of the community, as guards for the community, and as educators for the community. They educated us, they educated the neighborhood, and they probably are educating the people who cause trouble. So we're not in this alone. We are part of a very large, active, socially just community, which I feel very proud about.
Online, first I'd like to apologize for missing it before Linda Seltzer shared. It strikes me that coupling a welcoming presence and with covenantal behavior is what builds growth, going back to plans to expand. And then Alex asked, before I joined or knew about OUUC, I saw them with a banner at a protest on the steps of the Capitol. When I first started looking at joining, people would organize and go to protests together, which was also one of the things that attracted me to the space. Having action teams, something that was affected by COVID. Are there plans to bring these back post-COVID?
Yes. I've been to 2 women's marches since we've come back from COVID, and in both cases there have been an OUUC presence. We've not had a banner, but we walked together proudly. I know I did the women's march twice, and then we were part of the Pride March this last June. So for it to be organized with a banner and all that, someone needs to just do it. I mean, you don't have to be elected to do it. You just have to, you have permission to just do it.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Just doing it. So I've been around this organization for about 5 years, and you folks have transformed me into somebody different. I'm working hard on anti-racism. I grew up in a biracial community in Tacoma. And it was a lovely community with some really tough experiences. Today, before I die, I want to make a difference in terms of race relations in our country. And I've gone to Osho, a community center in Tumwater, and I and other people are now walking with Aaron Jones on Saturday. That is a calling that isn't about give your money or as a white person, I'm not there to change anybody. I'm just there to show support for diversity, building community with the community. And I feel that all of us UUs are doing that every day as we walk our territories and talk about what we live and believe as UUs. Come join me.
And the other thing, I hope this is accurate, I think is the difference between a program and a pastoral church is that we're not waiting for somebody to lead us. So if you are passionate about something, you are welcome to talk to the board, talk to Reverend Mary, figure out how to implement it. And what we need as a group are people from every different area of interest, because there's probably somebody else that is not going to stand up and lead. So if you're fascinated by houselessness or reproductive rights or whatever your issue is, own it and be willing to stand up and say you will, and then other people will join you. We're not really waiting for Reverend Mary to tell us what we should be doing, which I'm sure she's relieved to hear.
Yes, I am relieved to hear that because, yeah, lots of reasons in that. So in addition to everything shared, I just want to hold up institutionally, kind of organizationally, the things we've put in place to support the justice efforts here. A couple of years ago, we had a Faith in Action forum and identified 3 focus areas for OUC: racial justice, climate justice, economic justice. There's a team that's formed for each of those 3 areas. And there's also a social justice action list through Realm. And so whenever something is happening, whether it's a rally that we're attending, and there have been a number that I have attended and we have attended with our sign when we're allowed, on the Capitol steps and elsewhere, whenever there's a petition to sign or something that's happening that we can show up for, it goes out on that list. And Reverend Sarah and others are really good about having those actions. I just saw something from Wendy Stephenson about a petition to sign related to some trees that are going to be taken down and shouldn't be. So it's an active place. So organizationally, if you want to know anything more about those, please reach out to Reverend Sarah or to me, and we'll be happy to get you connected.
Well, it is 1/4 after. If there are no burning desires, I will go ahead and close this meeting, and I thank you all for your participation and for your contributions, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you.